As a benchmark for you, you have finished about 5.5 of the approximately 7 hours of training. Congratulations. We're now going to consider two chapters that are very closely related in their scope, in the kinds of work you do, in the kinds of skills you need, the teams you need. So we'll consider them together. Chapters 9 and 10, Building Commissioning and Energy Auditing. The concept of building commissioning begins with, in this process, a definition. The definition of commissioning for buildings is the process of ensuring systems are designed, installed, functionally tested, and operated in conformance with the design intent. Two further definitions of recommissioning and retrocommissioning. In this vast industry, some of these terms are used a little more loosely than others. But recommissioning has to do with commissioning a building again that has had a startup commissioning. And retro-commissioning, technically, is commissioning a building back in time that has not been commissioned before. In addition to this definition of commissioning, commissioning a ship, for example, would be a process for making it ready for duty. Likewise, commissioning a building is making it ready for duty. And consider risks. Are there risks at sea in an uncommissioned ship? The purposes for commissioning are varied, beginning with energy management, which is our primary goal. In addition, building comfort, operation of building systems, the control of maintenance cost, and to improve the technical skills of the building staff. The first step in any commissioning project is going to be determining the commissioning team. First on that team is a project manager who's responsible for coordination and project activity scheduling. There are oftentimes retro-commissioning professionals that are not project managers in this case, but they develop the measurement, performance, and operation plan. They supervise the technicians, whereas the project manager supervises the project. Retro-commissioning technicians will conduct field measurements and implement the modifications that are found and the improvements that are determined. And there will always be some facility staff who are designated to be part of the commissioning team. These facility staff participate in initial surveys. They communicate with internal facility customers on behalf of the commissioning team. And indeed, facility staff will even participate in the implementation of the commissioning project. As we consider the objectives for commissioning, let me remind you of the parallel we drew between commissioning a building and commissioning a ship and making it ready for duty. In order to make a building ready for duty or confirm its readiness for duty, either one of those, you see the parallels with a ship commissioning. Objectives in commissioning in our context is first to confirm to the owners of the building a certain performance level. It involves the design, construction, and inspection functions and the documentation supporting the current performance and desired performance of the building to the owners. Commissioning results in more efficient and longer lasting buildings, which increases the value of those buildings, as well as resulting in better trained staff. And lastly, commissioning adds value to the building, at the same time lowering the risk to litigation, because instead of crossing your fingers and hoping something was done right and finding out later it wasn't, you're going to go through a process of confirmation and evidence that something was done correctly or incorrectly, thereby lowering the risk to litigation. For Energy Onion, we divide the commissioning process into two phases. The first, identifying buildings, and a retro-commissioning assessment, RCX, being a shorthand for retro commissioning. Identifying the buildings takes place. Maybe the building's uncomfortable, has high energy bills or high maintenance. The retro commissioning assessment and project scope is where owner's requirements need to be brought in a specific and critical nature. Phase 2, the implementation, begins with the retro commissioning plan and project team. The team must be identified, roles must be clarified, and together the retro commissioning team will develop a detailed work plan. You must come up with performance baselines documenting existing conditions and performances. You have to conduct system measurements, identifying current operating schedules, problems, set points, and if you can, even some cost-effective retrofits. The retro commissioning measures will begin to be implemented. In order to do this, you have to obtain approval and execute those improvements in a specific way, in the way it was committed. Then you need to document the improvements. Document and compare the existing conditions and performances to the baseline. Ongoing commissioning is the process whereby you maintain the improved comfort and energy performance, and you provide actual measured energy savings in an ongoing fashion. As you consider the systems that are to be commissioned, to be made ready, as in the case of a ship, if you're making ready your building and looking at the systems that should be commissioned, you'll consider your HVAC system, your fire and life safety equipment, lighting, electrical, plumbing, and building envelope. The types of systems that would be commissioned on your building would depend on the type of building, and on the system, and on the budget. In addition, any of these systems could have componentry or controls commissioned. And as a note, although plumbing and building envelope are listed as systems for commissioning, they are in practice less likely than the others to undergo commissioning. We consider commissioning, retro-commissioning, recommissioning as opportunities for you to, in a methodical way, find energy savings opportunities. But what about the non-energy benefits of retro-commissioning, such as indoor air quality, reducing change orders and contractor callbacks, warranty claims on equipment that failed prematurely but was never commissioned, reducing litigation, finding fewer, quotes, hidden electrical problems, hidden only because they went so long without being checked. Commissioning will provide a longer equipment life, which may be a financial benefit. And then, of course, the commissioning provides your staff with training and documentation that improves and adds benefit to your building as well. The second part of this recording is energy auditing and instrumentation. We consider these with building commissioning, again because of the type of people, their skill sets, the equipment, and the typical phase of work that commissioning is done and auditing is done, and how these typically have or often have some overlap. This graph is just intended to provide the first few questions that would need to take place in a typical energy audit. In addition to getting information on the whole building, facility, contact, utility, building envelope, central plant, and so forth, you also would need to do a room-by-room audit, common areas, parking, office, kitchen, every area. So you can imagine that the locations and the varied conditions and people and all these different variables will provide for a very complex energy audit. But there have been some procedures written for how to do an energy audit, and we'll look at that next. ASHRAE, as we saw in the HVAC chapter, is the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers, and ASHRAE has written a procedure manual for commercial building energy audits. On the right is a typical page from this procedures manual. And what you see is it is a hard form, not a soft form, so you have to write the data in. And then it is somewhat cumbersome in the way that it makes you differentiate, delineate between space numbers and function types, and looking down the list of types for every space number. But there is another way. As we have chosen to do with Energy Onion, that energy auditing function, the data gathering function, need not be in a hard paper format like it is in the ASHRAE Procedures Manual. That form and the functionality can be programmed into something like a Microsoft Excel or some other program that makes it a little easier to look at the numbers and to look at the trends and so forth. At Energy Onion, we've developed a spreadsheet-based tool. It is proprietary to Energy Onion and built just for Energy Onion. And it is a tool that allows you to quickly scroll through the data fields that you need for a particular building type. As this example, we have said the fields we need are lighting, room dimensions, audit temperature, audit light level, and HVAC. These are the data fields we need in this particular space type, which happens to be an office type of space in a building such as a K through 12 building. So the auditor, rather than writing in numbers on a form and having to choose and select from many different space types, has the space type automatically pre-filled data fields and space fields for that type of building. It should come as no surprise to you that, as in many cases, the use of an electronic tool such as Energy Onion provides is only as good as the discipline of the people using it to use it while they enter data. If all you're doing is translating data to a spreadsheet to make it look nice, you won't get the true functionality of the tool, such as what we've built for Energy Onion. This next slide lists some audit instruments that'll help you in what we perceive to be the real purpose of an audit, and that is to take an accurate snapshot of the building, to be able to relay to other technical people the existing conditions. Not, as some other training modules might propose, audit training is not to teach you how to solve those energy conservation problems. We at Energy Onion believe it's foolhardy to teach someone that within a day they'll have the experience at such a level that they will be competitive with the experience of others who may have focused on their field for 20, 30, or more years. If you perform a lighting audit, we'll teach you how to see the low-hanging fruit. But mind you, we won't tell you that at the end of the training you would be the right person to specify the new lighting. We at Energy Onion believe that that is setting you up to fail. So what are some of these audit instruments that help you take an accurate snapshot of a building? First is a multimeter. Allows you to measure various electrical properties. You also have a power factor meter. Its name is self-explanatory. An infrared or IR gun to measure surface temperature. A flow hood of some sort to measure supply and return airflows. You may need a humidity meter or a light meter or indeed a data logger if what you want to know is how some physical property like temperature or humidity or something like that changes over the course of time. Of course, if what you want is to get that additional energy audit training, you need to make the next step. Again, Energy Onion's 3 modules are Analyst, Engineer, and Investigator. This is the engineer, intended to give you a full day of energy and understanding of technical systems. If you want to be an auditor, the right course for you next is the Investigator. In conclusion, we've discussed first commissioning and then auditing. Chapter 9, commissioning purposes included energy management, building comfort, system operation, maintenance cost, and improving the technical skills of staff as they're asked to come alongside other technical people in the commissioning process. In auditing, we have discussed some audit procedures, some audit systems. Remember the ASHRAE system and the Energy Onion electronic system. And in auditing, we've also presented technical abilities, some tools that allow a technical person to lend their technical abilities to an energy audit. This is the end of Chapter 10.